My friend, if lately you've been feeling something different, as if a quiet current of energy is moving all around you, making your heart tremble for reasons you can't quite name, this isn't a coincidence. The universe is trying to speak to you, and believe me, this message is unlike any you've ever received before. There are moments when the whole world seems to fall silent, and in that silence, a voice begins to rise, not from outside, but from deep within your own soul. It whispers for you to pause to listen because something is coming, something that could shift the entire direction of this month. And in that very moment, between light and shadow, a small crack opens in your sky, the beginning of a journey that was always meant to find you. Aries, the sky above you is no longer silent. A small crack is opening between the clouds, and from it, light begins to pour down, gentle yet powerful enough that you can't ignore it. Maybe you've already felt it in a dream, in a moment of stillness between all the noise when your heart suddenly paused for no reason. The universe is trying to tell you something. Divine warnings rarely arrive like thunder. Sometimes they come wrapped in silence, the kind of silence that lets you hear your heartbeat, feel your soul tremble softly. When life begins to shift, when everything familiar starts to fall apart, it isn't the end. It's the beginning of a chapter your soul has been waiting for. You might feel tired lately. The plans that once felt certain now seem fragile. People you trusted are slowly fading away. And you keep asking yourself, why is everything happening at once? But Aries, sometimes God must break what you thought was stable so you can finally see what truly lasts. He doesn't take to punish. He takes to teach you how to hold yourself steady in the storm. I once believed pain was punishment, until I realized it was simply the way light chooses to enter the places within us that have never been touched. When something falls apart, it doesn't just reveal the cracks, it reveals the space where peace can grow. The sacred warning reaching you now isn't meant to frighten you. It's calling you home, back to your breath, back to your sleeping courage, back to the gentle power within you. Let everything unfold without resistance. Nothing the universe sends is here to harm you. Everything arrives to teach you to love more deeply, even yourself. Pay attention to the smallest things. A falling leaf, a brief encounter, a dream that refuses to fade. Each one holds a fragment of a message meant only for you. God speaks through the simplest details, because only in simplicity can the human heart truly listen. If you've ever lived through a moment that broke you, one you thought was the end, and later realized it was the beginning of something better, share your story. Someone out there might be standing exactly where you once stood, waiting for the light from your journey to keep them from giving up. We don't always need to understand everything. Sometimes it's enough to trust that every change has its reason. When we stop running from pain, we realize it's been our teacher all along, patient, merciful, and wise. And then in that moment when you finally release the struggle, something begins to move. Not loudly, not with force, but softly, like the sound of leaves falling, like the whisper of destiny breathing near your ear. You start to notice small signs, quiet coincidences, as if the whole universe is murmuring the same truth. I am here and you are being guided. When your heart begins to listen, the world stops being chaotic. It becomes a mirror reflecting divine intention. And in that reflection, the first subtle signs appear, gentle, delicate, yet powerful enough to change everything. That's when your journey slips into a deeper layer, where nothing is random and every detail carries purpose, where the subtle signs are waiting to be seen. Have you ever wondered why the same number keeps showing up in front of you, again and again, at the most random moments? Why an old song suddenly plays right when your mind is lost in thought? Or why a dream repeats itself, leaving you awake with the strange feeling that someone somewhere is trying to tell you something? No, it's not random. It's the way the universe whispers, because souls that have walked through pain cannot be awakened by noise, only by gentle coincidences. These signs don't come to confuse you. They come to remind you, I'm here and you were never alone. They appear in the smallest details, the glance of a stranger, the laughter of a child, the scent of morning coffee that stirs an old peaceful memory. All of it is the language of divine guidance. If you can be still enough to listen, you'll notice every event in life carries a rhythm, quiet, mysterious, perfectly in tune with the breath of the universe. And in that moment, everything begins to make sense. The wall between coincidence and divine design fades away, leaving behind a shimmering space where your soul and life itself finally meet. Maybe you're standing in that in-between place now, between two choices, between what's old and what's new. And then something small happens, a message, a memory, a meeting that seems ordinary, yet it makes you stop, take a deep breath. And somehow you just know. You know you're being guided. God never forgets to speak to you. He's only waiting for you to become quiet enough to hear. We live in a noisy world where everyone talks, but very few truly listen. That's why the universe speaks in subtle signs, not to amuse you, but to lead you back to the sacred silence within yourself. Because there, in that silence, every answer already exists. When you stop searching outside, you start hearing something deeper within, a peace without reason, a fragile yet unshakable faith, an intuition so gentle it guides you even without a map. The beauty of these signs is that they never demand, they simply invite. They knock softly on the door of your awareness, and it's up to you to open or to walk away. But once you choose to listen, the world around you begins to change. Everything becomes more alive, more vivid, as if creation itself is breathing with you. And you realize you were never walking alone. Remember, what keeps repeating in your life is not here to tease you. It's here to teach you about patience, about faith, about seeing life as a grand tapestry woven from millions of threads, where every event, every person, every emotion has its place. If something keeps returning to you, don't push it away. Look closer. It might just be a message your soul wrote for itself. When your mind grows still, God will speak. And when He speaks, doubt begins to fade, not because you understand everything, but because you feel safe again, like a child being held by unseen hands in the dark. Sometimes, it takes just one moment, one tiny sign, to make you lift your head, take a deep breath, and whisper, "I understand." And when faith quietly returns, you realize it's not the world outside that's changing, it's the light within you, growing stronger. That light lets you see differently, love differently, live differently, until every day becomes a silent conversation between you and the universe. And as that light expands, something deeper begins to move. You start not only seeing the signs, but feeling the energy flowing, colliding, blending through your life like invisible waves. From that sacred stillness, a new current rises, powerful, vast, yet full of love. It awakens you, pulling you into a profound transformation where old and new energies meet in an unseen dance. The beginning of a deeper awakening within you. There are seasons in life when it feels like you're walking through a thick fog. Everything becomes hazy. The things that once excited you suddenly feel distant. The people who once stood by your side begin to drift away in silence. And you ask yourself, why is everything changing so fast, so deeply, that I can hardly recognize who I am anymore? But in that very moment, a quiet cleansing begins. It's not the world turning against you, it's the old layers of energy dissolving, making space for something new, clearer, lighter, more authentic. When the soul grows, its first act isn't to rise, it's to shed worn-out beliefs, to release the roles you've played just to be loved, to let go of connections that no longer match the rhythm of your heart. Each time something leaves, you feel a bit lighter, yet emptier too, and that emptiness, that space, can feel frightening. Aries, that fear is natural, because between what departs and what arrives, there is always silence. And in that silence, your soul learns how to stand alone, not clinging, not rushing, not needing to be held. I've seen many people crumble when everything they depended on collapsed. They thought they'd lost it all, but when the storm passed, they realized what remained was the only thing that had ever truly been theirs. The truth is, God never takes anything away. He simply returns you to yourself. These clashes of energy aren't here to destroy, they're here to purify. Just as fire must burn away dead wood to burn clean and blue, your soul must release old energy so it can shine brighter. Let the tears fall if they need to. Let the anger, the confusion, the sorrow breathe their way out. Because only when the old energy is released can the new light find its way in. You can't step into a new chapter if you're still clutching the old pages. And sometimes, the universe must shake your entire world, just to make you let go. Don't mistake solitude for loss or silence for emptiness. A flower doesn't bloom in the crowd. It needs stillness. It needs time. It needs the darkness of the soil. So do you. Give yourself permission to sit in that quiet for a while, to hear your own heartbeat again. Because when the old energy fades, peace begins to slip in through the cracks. It might feel strange at first, but know that within that quiet, a new strength is forming. It's your original energy, untainted by fear, untouched by the past. I believe that when old energy leaves, it doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes light, softer, gentler, clearer. Everything you've lost has already fulfilled its purpose, to teach you patience, to show you your limits, and to remind you how to love without holding on. So when you feel like you're losing, know that you're actually receiving. You're being renewed, freed, returned home. You don't need to understand it all. Just let it unfold. Don't fight the change. Sometimes the only thing you're meant to do is breathe and trust that everything is aligning to the frequency your soul chose long ago. When two streams of energy, the old and the new, collide, there's conflict, there's noise, there's smoke. But when it clears, light is always what remains. Like dawn after a long night, the stillness that follows the storm brings realization. You were never broken. You were simply blooming. And from that trembling, something miraculous begins to rise. When the storm quiets, you'll hear a sound you've never heard before, a pure, gentle tone echoing from within. It doesn't shout, it doesn't rush, it whispers like the tender language of the soul. From this chaos, a lesson is awakening. Not a lesson from the world outside, but from the deepest part of your heart, the place where the inner lesson has been waiting to be heard. Not every answer lies in prophecy or in the mysterious signs written across the sky. Sometimes, the most sacred truth is spoken through the quiet that lives inside you. When the noise of the world begins to fade, when there's nothing left to hold on to, that's when the heart starts to speak softly as a breath, yet powerful enough to change the course of a lifetime. Maybe you've known days like that. Days when you no longer know what's right or wrong. Everyone tells you to go one way, but your intuition gently pulls you another. And among 1,000 voices, there's only one that feels real, a quiet whisper from within that says, "Trust me." That voice never promises ease. It doesn't guarantee safety, but it's always right, because it is the voice of your soul, the place where God chose to dwell within you. Aries, there are moments when life stops you in your tracks, not because you're tired, but because it's time to hear yourself again. Silence is not an emptiness. It's a sacred space overflowing with what's waiting to be discovered. In this modern world, we are surrounded by noise, work, screens, expectations, fear. The world teaches you that if you stop, you'll fall behind. But the truth is, sometimes the only way forward is to stop. To stop long enough to hear, to feel, to reconnect. Someone once said, faith doesn't begin with understanding. It begins the moment we choose to believe, even when there's nothing left to believe in. And that, Aries, is the deepest lesson your soul wants you to learn right now. When reason runs out of roads, the heart becomes your map. Think back to a time when you followed a quiet instinct, when no one understood you, when everything seemed uncertain, and later, you realized that choice saved you, that it opened a door you didn't even know existed. That wasn't luck, that was guidance. The inner lesson doesn't come from books or teachers. It arrives when you face your own fear and stay. When you stand in uncertainty without demanding answers, you begin to hear what no teaching could ever tell you, the pure, steady voice of your own soul. Someone once asked me, how can I tell the difference between the voice of fear and the voice of my soul? I smiled. Because the voice of fear always rushes, but the voice of the soul always arrives with peace. A single phrase, a soft warmth in your chest, a flicker of light in your mind, that's how God answers. Not through miracles that shake the sky, but through clarity that settles the heart. Trust that process. Faith is the bridge between what you don't understand and what you know deep down is true. And when you step onto that bridge, you don't need to see the whole path. Just trust that each step will be lit when you take it. If you've ever heard that inner voice, the one that made you change direction, live differently, or simply believe again, share it. Your story might be the sign someone else has been waiting for. Aries, this lesson isn't here to make you stronger, it's here to make you deeper. To help you listen, to help you trust, and to help you love. Even when you have no reason to. Because once you learn to trust that voice within, You'll stop seeking protection outside. You'll become your own sanctuary. And when your heart finally understands, when faith takes root, something sacred begins to unfold. A new light forms around you, not one you see, but one you feel. It surrounds you, protects you, lifts you through the storm. From the deepest part of this lesson, that light expands, warm, gentle, unbreakable, guiding you into a higher realm of your journey, the place where the divine protection awaits. Sometimes, peace doesn't come from life getting easier, it comes from the moment you realize you no longer have to fight alone. There is an unseen hand that keeps lifting you, holding you steady even when you feel too weak to stand. And that hand, it sometimes takes the shape of a stranger's kind smile on a crowded street, a few unexpected words that warm your heart, or a soft breeze brushing through your hair, gently reminding you the divine is still here. Aries, divine protection isn't about being shielded from pain. It's the ability to see light even in the darkest night. God doesn't remove your trials, because those trials are where your soul grows strong. He doesn't stop the rain, but He places His hand beneath every step you take so you don't fall. Sometimes you don't realize you're being protected until you look back and see all the things that didn't happen, the wrong turns you never took, the doors that closed just in time, the people who left breaking your heart, yet freeing your path. Every one of them was the universe's quiet way of saving you from what was never meant for you. In the teachings of the Buddha, the protected one is not the one who avoids suffering, but the one who understands its purpose. When we understand, pain stops being an enemy and becomes a teacher. And when we stop trying to control everything, life begins to soften like a river finding its way back to the sea. Pay attention and you'll see. The moment you release fear, everything around you starts to fall beautifully into place. The right person arrives at the right time. Opportunities appear in perfect rhythm. And the worries that once stole your sleep begin to fade, not because of some miracle, but because you stopped forcing what was never yours to control. Divine protection isn't a wall keeping you safe from hurt, it's a gentle cloak that keeps you from breaking while you heal. You no longer need to be endlessly strong, because true strength isn't about never fearing, it's knowing that even in fear you are still loved, still held. Think of life as a flowing river. Every time you try to control the current, the water grows cloudy. But when you let it move freely, it becomes clear again, reflecting the open sky. The universe works the same way. When you stop resisting, when you stop doubting, the energy around you clears and begins to work on your behalf. Aries, that protection is expanding around you now, not to stop you from feeling, but to keep your heart whole through every impact. It meets you in still moments of meditation, in your laughter during the storm, or simply in your choice to trust, even when nothing makes sense, because faith is the door that opens the field of peace. I believe that every time you choose gratitude over fear, you weave another thread of light around you. That light doesn't just protect you from pain, it helps you see the world with deeper compassion, softer eyes, and a wiser heart. One day, when you look back, you'll see it clearly. The things that once brought you to tears were the very things that made you gentle. The losses that almost broke you became the ground where your strength was born. That is the miracle of divine protection, not in avoiding pain, but in understanding it. And when you begin to feel that light surrounding you, you stop fearing the dark, because you finally understand the light isn't only outside of you. It lives within you in every breath, in every heartbeat, in every moment you dare to love again. From that quiet peace, a new door begins to open. Not loud, not blinding, but with the soft grace of understanding. And beyond that door, the universe starts to speak again. Its voice gentle as wind, deep as the ocean, carrying messages your eyes cannot yet see. Every single thing that happens in your life, whether small or monumental, carries a message within it. A brief encounter, a recurring dream, a coincidence that feels too precise to be random, all of them are trying to tell you something. But the universe never speaks in noise. It speaks in symbols, in patterns, in moments that seem ordinary, yet are anything but. It uses the language of subtlety to guide you back to the path your soul once knew but somehow forgot. Have you ever noticed how one small event can shift your entire heart? A casual word that suddenly awakens you. A stranger appearing at the exact moment you needed help. a loss that forces you to stop and truly see yourself. These things don't come to punish you, they come to guide you, because the universe never repeats without reason. It only echoes until you finally understand. Aries, when you look at life through the eyes of fear, everything seems random. But when you look through the eyes of awakening, everything begins to carry meaning. A closed door isn't rejection, it's protection from what's no longer aligned with your soul. A person's departure isn't meant to leave you lonely, it's to create space for what truly belongs. And every tear that falls waters the soil of your spirit, where seeds of wisdom quietly begin to grow. When you pause and ask, why is this happening to me? The answer rarely comes from the outside. It comes from the stillness inside your heart, where God softly whispers, because you need to see what you've forgotten. The truth hidden in every experience is this: nothing is ever truly lost. Everything is only transformed, energy, form, love. Someone leaves so you can learn to love without owning. An opportunity slips away so you can learn to trust divine timing. Pain arrives to remind you that you can still feel, still live, still open your heart again. No sign comes to frighten you. Every sign is an invitation to return to the light. And when you look at life with gratitude, every challenge becomes a gift. I once believed life was just a series of random events, until I realized that every time I fell, I was being guided somewhere truer. God doesn't write in words, He writes in experiences. And only when the heart softens can we read what He has written. If you've ever lived through something that seemed meaningless but ended up changing you forever, share it. Because maybe you are the sign someone else has been waiting for. Aries, when you begin to see order within chaos, meaning within silence, and connection within what once felt separate, you've touched the deepest truth of your soul, that nothing ever arrives too early or too late. Everything happens to teach you how to love, how to trust, how to return to the wholeness that has always been yours. And when your heart finally accepts this, when you look back at loss without resentment, the light within you begins to shift. It's no longer a light shining on you, but a light rising from you, warm, gentle, unwavering. That light is the sign, the proof that your soul has understood, forgiven, and is ready for the next chapter. From that moment of realization, something profound begins to move, like a flower opening after a long rain, like the first sunlight touching a mountaintop. No more fear, no more striving, only a quiet peace that fills your being. And in that peace, rebirth begins, softly, naturally, yet powerful enough to transform everything that you are. This October is more than just a point on the calendar. It's a doorway, opening for your soul to step into a higher light. Every challenge, every tear, every moment of silence that once felt meaningless, all of it has been a quiet baptism for your spirit. A sacred cleansing that required you to walk through your own darkness, just to remember that the light never left, it was only waiting for you to return. Aries, you've spent so long searching for signs in numbers, in dreams, in prophecies, in the whisper of the wind outside your window. But now, something has changed. You've stopped searching for signs because you've finally realized you are the sign. Your soul, through every crack, every fall, every breath that survived the storm, has become living proof of faith, of resilience, of a light that cannot be extinguished. Look back, not with the eyes of who you were, but with the heart of someone who understands. The things that once broke you have become the most beautiful parts of your story. From the ruins, compassion was born. From the ashes, faith was restored. And in that moment when you stopped resisting, the divine began its work through you. You've learned that miracles aren't something that happen to you, they bloom within you the moment you dare to trust life again. When you choose gratitude over resentment, listening over reaction, love over fear, the universe reflects that choice. By sending back quiet, honest wonders, not loud, not spectacular, but real enough to make you smile even on the days you thought you couldn't anymore. Rebirth doesn't arrive like thunder. It comes like a new breath, gentle, slow, patient. One morning you'll wake up and simply realize something inside you is different. You no longer carry the burden of who you must be. You no longer chase to be seen or to be understood. You just want to live softly, deeply, fully in each moment that comes. That's when your soul becomes free, when it no longer fears being hurt, when it no longer needs to prove anything, when all it wants is to shine. Aries, you are living proof that light never dies, even after walking through the deepest darkness, because that light doesn't live outside of you. It lives within you in the gratitude in your eyes, in the smile that rises after tears, in every step you take through the fog with quiet courage. Thank you, Aries, for being here, for walking this path with an open heart. May you be peaceful in every breath, guided by light and faith, even when the road ahead is still unwritten. And as you go, remember this: you don't just carry your own story. You carry the light this world still needs. Because you, yes, you are the universe's most beautiful answer to the darkness.